This week on the podcast, we're going to talk about lending money to family and friends. Is it a good idea? Should you do it? Should you not do it? Many people who've done it say no and never do it again. Others say yeah, but maybe some rules or parameters can go a long way to helping that. We'll talk about some of that this week. What's going on, my friend? How are you?
I'm good. I'm wore out.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize I had all these bags under my eyes until I just got on the camera.
That's good. Well, we were just joking that we've got some people checking out the channel. We always appreciate everybody's support here on the podcast, and of course, subscribing to us and stuff helps us support the channel. But we've had a couple comments where we talk about baseball, and they're not always a big fan of that. But it's a passion, right? And if you got a passion, you got to share those passions too. And you got bags under your eyes because you were just in Cooperstown, right?
Yeah, it's like the mecca for 12-year-old little boys is to go to Cooperstown, New York, and play in a tournament. And like the boys had a great time. I mean, there's 104 teams out there the week that we were there. Some really good national teams. Teams that they bring kids from all over the country to play in Cooperstown to try to go out and win it, which is great. I mean, we wanted to win it too.
Sure.
But it was an awesome experience. Our boys showed up, and the Utah boys played really, really well. The only downside to Cooperstown, which isn't necessarily a downside, is that they put you in bunkhouses on the campus of where all the 22 fields are.
Oh, wow.
So us coaches got to sleep in bunk beds with the kids for a week.
So a little tired, yeah.
A little tired, but hey, you know what? It was
it
sounds like I'll never forget.
It sounds like a pretty big complex then, man. That's to house all those people and
huge.
stuff. Yeah, that's pretty massive. I didn't realize it was that big.
There's 22 fields. There's like 50 bunkhouses. Like
Wow.
It is insane. They feed you. They've got, showers and I mean, it's self-contained. It's like a little city
Nice.
that you could never have to leave.
Well, so I guess you might need to borrow money from somebody to go stay at Cooperstown for.
It is not cheap.
It is
that's
not
for sure.
cheap. Yeah. So if that's on your plans, well, then that's my segue anyway into this conversation. So,
Perfect.
Look. So let's talk about loaning money to family or friends, or maybe going into business with them. Like we've all kind of been in that regard, and it's tough, right? I think the first place you got to start, Sean, is understand how it impacts your relationship, right? And I think the same thing's probably true when you're talking with your financial clients who are like, hey, we're thinking about gifting money to family or lending, our kids or grandkids some. How's that gonna, how's it gonna be set up to where it's not damaging your relationship?
Yeah, and this actually, like when I saw this topic come through, it takes me back 23 years almost. I was fresh out of college. I was struggling, just to make ends meet. I had just started in this industry, and at the time, I had worked for a firm where it was like kind of commission based, and it just wasn't like it didn't fit my personality. So it was really hard for me. And I remember I went to my uncle, who is a pretty successful guy, retired at 55, and now went back to work because he wants to, not because he has to. But I remember and I should pull it up. I asked him for a loan of $1,200, which in my mind was like, oh, that's nothing. He's fine. But the reality of it was that like $1,200 in 2002 was a lot more than it is now. It was a big deal. And I'll never forget. He's like, yeah, sure, I'll loan you the money, but I want it paid back in full in 12 months. Here's your interest rate. Here's your contract. And here's your payment plan. And I remember receiving that contract, signing it, and then it was like a dark cloud over my head. And I paid that money back to my uncle within 4 months, and our relationship has never been stronger. He and I talk about that check and that contract all the time, and how that got me through that period of my life. But it was done right, and it didn't.
Yeah, he taught you some good lessons too, right? So yeah. No penalties, I'm assuming, for paying it off early, right?
No, I still had to pay. Like, it was a flat interest rate, so I had to pay the interest that I owed him.
Okay.
So I think he made $100 or something.
It's not terrible,
But
but yeah.
it was. I'm very grateful and thankful that he did that for me.
No, that's cool, right? And that's the point, right? Is making sure that you're setting things up and doing it the right way. And also, second point is don't lend money you don't have, right? So,
Yeah.
especially when we're talking about retirees, pre-retirees, kids or grandkids conversation, sometimes we want to do that. We want to figure out a way to help them. You can't sacrifice yourself too far. I mean, I get it. We all want to help our loved ones, but you got to be somewhat smart because then you're only putting yourself in a hole to where maybe you're asking somebody else, and then it becomes this terrible cycle.
Well, what happens is, if I only have $100 in my account, for example, and my kids ask for 50, oh, I'll pay you back. Well, I only have $50 in my account, and that may hurt if I've got a big expense that's an unknown,
Hmm.
or I've got 10 grand in my checking account and my kids need help. Now, I would help my kids. However, you can't allow yourself to go in the hole financially,
Right.
because then it has this toppling effect, right? Like, oh, well, I'll loan kids money from my checking account, and if I need money, I'll pull it from my retirement account or I'll borrow it from somewhere else.
Hmm.
And now it creates a debt that you're responsible for. Your kids aren't going to be responsible for it. It's you that's responsible for
Yeah.
it.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to be really careful that if you are going to loan money, in my mind is like, oh, it's just $1,200. I had no clue how that was going to affect my uncle financially.
Sure. Yeah.
Fortunately for him, he was able to do it and it didn't hurt him. But I had no idea how it was going to affect him.
Well, and you think about, again, our demographic, right? So let's say somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, I need to borrow five or six or $10,000 for this or that or the other." And again, if you're not in the position to do it right, and they're thinking, "Hey, okay, you've got the money. Why can't you just loan me the 5 grand?" Everyone's been in that situation before. Someone's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I know you've got it. Why can't you loan me 5 grand?" Well, okay, to your point, well, what if you don't know anything about my situation as much as you think you do. Now I'm having to pull this money out, let's say, of an account that I'm paying the tax and the penalty on just to loan you money. And I'm not going to get that back. More than likely, you're not going to give that back to me, even if you do pay me
Right.
back the 5 grand. Now, hopefully you do set something up and the person pays you back, but are you charging them for the penalty and the interest and all that kind of stuff? Plus, the loss that you might incur by the time out of the market, maybe, if that's depending
Yeah.
on the type of account, right? So to your point about the uncle, get it in writing. Maybe that's a way to stop the fighting. It worked for you guys.
I mean, it was clear as day. He said, "This is the interest rate. This is your payoff plan. This is when you have to pay me back, and this is what I expect." And he did that because I think he knew that he didn't want to hurt a relationship.
Sure. And you were a kid.
And
You were young. I mean, you weren't a kid, but you were
yeah,
young.
21, 22 years old,
Yeah.
and it was a great. I mean, it was a great thing to have it written out, the contract in writing of what the expectations were, because all we had to do at that point was say, "Hey, let's go back to the contract. Let's see if there's a discrepancy here." And thankfully there never was.
Right. Right.
But had it just been like, "Oh yeah, here's $1,200. Oh, you told me I could pay that back whenever I wanted to, or I'll get you next month, or whatever it may be," it was the first of every month. Bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
How much I had to pay him back.
We kind of did the wrong way a little bit with our kid when she was getting her car. We got her the first car, and unfortunately she had an accident. So then she wanted to get another one, right? And it's like, all right, well then you're going to have to chip in on this one. And so we had this, this thing on the back of one of the cabinet doors with every time she made a payment. And it started to get where the payments were getting fewer and farther between. And it was like,
Oh yeah.
I'd open it up and I'd go, what are we doing here? And she'd be like, oh, you give me a hard time. I don't have any money. It's like, well, then you need to, figure it out and get more money.
Right.
Well, you guys can afford it. Right. And it starts to kind of become that thing. And even though she was our kid and we love her to pieces, you start to get a little annoyed at some point. You're like, hey, that's not the point. You needed help. Now you do the right thing.
Right.
We helped you the first time. Second time, you really got to step up to the plate. So maybe there's other
Absolutely.
ways, Sean, to help, right? So maybe that's some other things. Maybe, if it's a relationship you're worried about damaging, is there another way you can help people?
Do you buy, like, I look at my kids and, if they didn't live at home, how could I support them without giving them money? Well, we could provide food, which we're already doing that anyways, right? We
Sure.
could, if they had kids, we could take care of their kids.
Grandparents definitely get into that situation a lot,
And
right?
you know, there's ways to, keep your children on your insurances, or, let them live at home. Those are all things that you can do to help your kids save money, to put them in a proper situation to progress forward financially. We never want to see, and I'm the same way. I never want to see my kids have less than I had growing up.
Sure.
And I want them to be put in the right position, in the best position possible to succeed. I don't want them just to be fine. I want them to be set up to succeed in whatever endeavors they look at. My daughter right now, like, she's super creative, and we're creating a custom shoe business, right? Like, so she's created
Okay.
these custom cleats for Michael and all of his teammates. And to create the cleats, they provide the cleat, we charge them $30. But now it's getting to a point to where there's Cricut machines involved, like those vinyl machines where you
Oh, yeah. Okay.
airbrush, and
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
all sorts of stuff and it's probably a $300-400 endeavor.
Helping her build a business.
Yeah, and one of my good friends is Keith Folk, pitched for the Red Sox, and baseball again. Sorry, but he's playing on with the Savannah Bananas, and he asked her to do a pair of custom cleats for him.
Oh, nice.
Now there's a cost incurred. We said, hey, Keith, we'll do this. Like, we're just going to send them to you as our gift, but promote her, and so
Right.
there's all these expenses that come along with doing something like this and starting up a business that, as dad, I'm happy to cover that cost, but I also don't want them to expect me to cover the cost.
Yeah, and that's the point, right? And then co-signing, right? I mean, that's another piece where, again, if you're going to go with co-signing on something, make sure you've got some parameters set in place, because they leave you holding the bag, it's going to damage your relationship too, right? So a lot of different places where you want to be careful there. A little different topic this week, but look, you shared a personal story, which I think worked really well with that. Helping somebody financially comes from a good place. We all want to try to do that, but you got to think about the long-term consequences, especially, again, if you're a retiree, if you're no longer having paychecks coming in and you've got, quote unquote, a fixed budget. I mean, I know that, hopefully you're not necessarily just relying on Social Security only, but you get what I'm saying, right? So you want to make sure that you're talking with your advisor on the gifting laws, right, Sean? I mean, there's also, what is it, 19,000 per person right now, I think you can gift to anybody. So, understand some of those different rules and parameters and things of that nature, and that can maybe help in a lot of those ways. So if you need some help, got some questions, reach out to Sean and the team. Of course, you can find them online. We'll have all the links in the show descriptions below at elevatemyretirement.com, and the podcast links as well. You can find us on Apple and Spotify, and of course on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe button, and notification bell. Helps out the channel, and we certainly appreciate it. So we'll catch you next time here on Retirement Elevated with Sean Lee. Get some rest, buddy. We'll see you soon.
This video has been prepared for educational and marketing purposes only. The information in this video is general in nature, does not constitute personalized investment advice, and does not provide a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. All investments involve risk, and different types of investments involve varying degrees of risk. There can be no assurance that any specific investment strategy will be profitable or suitable to you. Additionally, although information presented in this video is believed to be factual and up to date, we do not guarantee its accuracy. You should consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation, and should consult a professional advisor before implementing any of the strategies mentioned in this video. Investment advisory services are offered through Elevated Capital Advisors LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor affiliated with Elevated Retirement Group LLC. Registration as an investment advisor does not constitute an endorsement of Elevated Capital Advisors LLC by securities regulators, nor does it indicate that the firm has attained a particular level of skill or ability. Insurance advice and products may be offered by a third-party insurance producer, which may be affiliated with Elevated Retirement Group LLC and Elevated Capital Advisors LLC. Mark Killian and Third Wheel Media LLC receive compensation for their assistance in preparing and hosting this video.